Hello students, I am Mrs. Divya dealing with chapter 7 evolution, and this is my 13th video. Previously we had discussed biological evolution, that is where you came across different theories proposed by scientists like Lamarck, and you have studied the theory of Darwin to suggest the origin of life. So in this module, we are going to discuss mechanism of evolution. So what is this? Mechanism of evolution explains the process of formation of new species. Okay. So previously you had studied about Darwin. So though Darwin recognized the role of heritable variations. So remember the theory of origin of species by natural selection, which was given by Darwin. So according to that, he said that organisms undergo variations which are heritable, right? But he could not explain how those variations appear. He couldn't explain the mechanism by which variations appear. Okay, so to explain this, again many different scientists, they gave out different theories, and there was a rediscovery of the work of Mendel, which helped in understanding this origin and inheritance of variations. Okay, so for this, let us first study the theory of mutation given by Hugo de Vries. So Hugo de Vries, he was a Dutch botanist. He was one of the independent rediscoverers of Mendelism. If you recall the previous chapter, that is Principles of Inheritance and Variation, which was given by Mendel, right? So this work of Mendel helped a lot in understanding the process of evolution. Okay, so he put forward his theory, that is the mutation theory, in 1901. So here students, he made his observations in the plant Oenothera lamarckiana. Okay, it's also called as evening primrose, commonly called as, and he continuously studied around 7 generations. Okay, so there he observed certain differences in their forms, and he could see that these differences appeared suddenly among the normal populations itself. For example, he could observe different varieties of colorations. Initially, there was a normal flower color, but suddenly some of them started giving different colorations. There was variation in their colorations. And when he crossed these different plants which had been obtained, they also bred true. That is, even they were fertile in nature. Okay, so he called this phenomenon, that is these sudden changes which occurred, were called as mutation, right? And those changed forms, what he observed, they were called as the mutants. Okay, remember these terms, mutation and the changed forms were called as mutants. So what do you mean by mutation, students? Sudden changes taking place in the genetic material of the organisms which are heritable. Remember, these sudden changes are heritable in nature. What do you mean by heritable? That is, they are inherited or they are passed on from one generation to the next generation. Got it? So this is the theory of Hugo de Vries, that is mutation theory. So I'll tell you what are the key features of this theory. He said that mutations are random and directionless. Remember this. So what do you mean by this? Random and directionless. Random in the sense the mutations did not have any definite pattern. Okay, so suddenly anywhere the mutations would occur. It is not that mutation has to occur in the male plant only. It is not that it has to occur in the female organism only. Not that it has to occur in one generation or in the second generation. Anywhere, in any populations or in any organisms, suddenly the mutation may occur. So that is said to be random. And why do we call it as directionless? Because directionless in the sense it didn't have any purpose. Okay, so that mutation, it might be advantageous or sometimes it might be non-advantageous also. Sometimes it might be useful, it might be harmful, sometimes it might be neutral. So there was no direction for that. Okay, so that is why we say mutations are random and directionless. Got it? So according to De Vries, new species arise in one or few such non-directional mutational steps, not due to Darwinian variations. Okay, what did Darwin say, children? Darwin said that variations occur, and what variations Darwin suggested were small and directional variations. You remember what are variations according to Darwin? Darwin said that variations occur. What do you mean by those variations? Variations in the sense changes in the structures or the behaviors of the organisms which make the nature to select them, right? So those variations were small, whatever that is, small variations would occur in the organisms, and those were directional. Whatever variations Darwin told, were considered to be directional. That means he said that useful variations occur in the organisms according to the environmental conditions. But Hugo de Vries, he completely what was opposing that theory of Darwin, and he said that formation of new species is due to mutations, and mutations are random and directionless. Remember these smaller things will be appearing in your competitive exam, students. Okay, in NEET exams, if you check the question papers, in very small sentences somewhere here and there from the textbook, they will have picked the questions. Okay, then he said that mutations provide raw material for organic evolution. So how do you consider it to be the raw material? Because as mutations, sudden changes occur, and these changes are heritable, right? So they pass on from one generation to the next generation. So in the upcoming generations, this new character is seen. So the next generation will be different from the older generation, right? So we can say that a new generation has occurred, and that later on forms the new species. So that is why we can say it is one of the raw material for evolution. Okay, then mutations are heritable changes and establish new species. Okay, so as the mutations are inherited from one generation to the next generation, we can say that they give rise to new species. Then unsuitable mutations are likely to be destroyed by natural selection. He also kept some of the points of the Darwin. He did not say that Darwin's theory is completely false. Some key points were selected from the Darwin's theory, and there he said that yes, natural selection occurs, but it is mainly due to mutation. The changes are occurring due to mutation. Okay, by mutation, changes have occurred, and useful changes will be selected, will be kept as it is by natural selection. So these are the key points given by mutation theory. What is the saltation? So according to Darwin, evolution is a gradual process. But Hugo de Vries believed that mutation causes species formation. It is not gradual. You know, mutation means what? Sudden change, right? So sudden change occurs, and that sudden changes are nothing but called as saltation. What do you mean by this term, saltation? Saltation is nothing but single step large mutation. The meaning of this term saltation is single step large mutation. Why it is single step large mutation? Single step in the sense a small mutation that gives rise to many a big change. Okay, this is very important, students. It is a question for 1 mark, most of the time appeared in the board exams. Saltation, what is saltation? Single step large mutation, only that much you are going to write. What is saltation? It is nothing but single step large mutation. Remember this. Now, as De Vries told students, a single mutation can give rise to a new variety, and hence a new species can be formed. But later on, it was thought that evolution cannot occur by mutations only. As I told you, even Hugo de Vries, though he supported mutations, he also approved that yes, natural selection is also occurring in the nature. So we can say that natural selection is also essential for evolution to occur. So later on, many different scientists, they went on studying the population genetics. What is population genetics? It is the branch of genetics where genetic changes among organisms of one common population and between two different populations is studied. So, by studying population genetics, by studying the genetic variations among one population and among different populations, the role of genetic variations was well understood in evolution. Okay, so this study later on led to the formation of another concept. So another different concept was given to explain the evolution of organisms, and that is called as the modern synthetic theory of evolution. Okay, so now the theory of natural selection, which was proposed by Darwin and Wallace, had certain shortcomings. Okay, they had certain drawbacks. So Darwin was unable to explain the causes of variation, as I told you. He could not explain the mechanism, how variations are occurring actually. But the discovery of mutation by De Vries, then by understanding the principles of inheritance by Mendel, this helped to resolve all those issues. Okay, so actually first it was mainly based on the book given by a scientist, Dobzhansky, that is the which he published in 1937. The book is named as Genetics and the Origin of Species. Okay, then it was Huxley, Julian Huxley, who proposed the term modern synthesis. It was based on certain modern concepts in the sense it was a combination of many different concepts. I'll tell you what. The main architects of this synthetic theory were different evolutionists like Dobzhansky, Huxley, Sewell Wright, Stebbins, Fisher, and Haldane. Okay, and they called this theory as neo-Darwinism because they all supported Darwinism. Okay, but they gave just certain changes. They just modified that Darwinism, and hence they called the theory as neo-Darwinism, or it is also called as the modern synthetic theory. Okay, so this theory, it explained all these different concepts to give out organic evolution. So which were the concepts explained there? It was a combination of Darwinism, that is the natural selection. It was a combination of mutation, which was explained by De Vries, and it also considered the concepts of Mendel, that is the principles of inheritance given by Mendel or the Mendelism. Okay, so and based on the evidences from genetics. As I told you, population genetics was well understood. The variations in the genes occurring in the organisms was well understood, and later on a concept, that is a synthetic theory, was proposed. Got it? So let us see what is the concepts given by this theory. They said that mainly evolution is occurring due to genetic variations and natural selection and then isolation of organisms. So according to modern synthetic theory, these are the three concepts which lead to evolution: genetic variation, natural selection, and isolation. Okay, so let us see what are these and how is it different from Darwinism. As I told you, they supported Darwinism and they just modified the theory of Darwin. What are the modifications they brought about? How can you differentiate between the two, Darwinism and Neo-Darwinism? Children, according to Darwinism, rapid rate of reproduction, that is when overproduction takes place, okay, that leads to what? Struggle for existence. You have studied the principles of Darwin, right? That is, there is overproduction of organisms, that is leading to struggle of existence, struggle for existence. So during this struggle, when the organisms are struggling, what they do, they bring about certain positive variations. So what do these positive variations lead to? Because of those positive variations, that will help in the survival of the organisms. Okay, so such positive variations are picked up by the nature. The nature chooses the organisms which are well fit, which have positive variations, and that we call it as the natural selection. So finally, these variations are passing from one generation to the next generation, and that is responsible for origin of species, right? So this is the concept given by Darwin. But according to Neo-Darwinism, evolution is mainly due to change in the gene frequency. Now, a new term here. What is this gene frequency? Children, gene frequency is nothing but frequency. You know what is the term frequency? You might have heard. Frequency refers to how frequently a particular gene or an allele appears in a population. Gene frequency. We say frequently it is appearing. How frequently that gene is appearing in one population. So that is gene frequency. Got it? You may call it to be the proportion, the ratio of one particular gene, or the percentage of a gene, how frequently it is appearing. Okay, so that is gene frequency. So Neo-Darwinism says that mainly evolution is because of change in gene frequency. I'll explain you in detail. Okay, then according to Darwin, evolution operates only on one organism. Remember the points explained by Darwin. We had taken the example of bacteria, if you remember. Okay, so in a colony of bacteria, we said that among those hundreds of bacteria, any one or two bacteria might be showing some variations, right? So those variations, that is the bacteria which with positive variations, they survive in the next generations, right? So he said that what evolution operates in one organism. But Neo-Darwinism believes that evolution operates in a gene pool. So what do you mean by gene pool? It is the sum total of all genes. That is gene pool. Okay. So before going on to the theory in detail, students, let us understand a few concepts first. Okay. when you study the NCERT textbook, the first three theories what I've explained you, that is the Lamarckism, Darwinism and mutation theory is given in your textbooks. Later on, the fourth theory what I told you, modern synthetic theory, children, they have not mentioned the name of it. Okay, but they have explained the concept later on. So read the textbook clearly, you will understand. I have given you the separate heading for that, so that will be helpful for your competitive exams. Okay, they have not, I repeat, they have not given the name as modern synthetic theory, but whatever concept I have explained you there, that is being given in your textbook. Do you understand? So read the NCERT textbook thoroughly and then watch the video. Okay, so let us understand the concepts now. That is the main concept what you have to study here is Hardy-Weinberg principle. Okay, because it was especially Hardy and Weinberg who gave the importance of population genetics to understand this modern synthetic theory, or to propose that modern synthetic theory. Okay, so this Hardy-Weinberg principle, it was proposed in 1908 independently by two scientists. So one was an English mathematician, that is Godfrey Hardy, and another one was a German physicist, Wilhelm Weinberg. Hence it is named after them as Hardy-Weinberg principle or law. So as G.H. Hardy, he was a great mathematician. He implied the mathematical formulae in understanding the evolution. Okay, so he explained how changes occur by giving it in mathematical explanation, or in terms of mathematical expressions. Got it? So let us understand what is that. This Hardy-Weinberg principle, students, it attempts to establish a connection between evolution and gene frequencies. They say that evolution is mainly occurring because of changes in gene frequencies. Okay, so they say that the relative frequency of alleles in the population always remains a constant. Understand? The frequency of genes in a population always remains a constant from one generation to the next generation. Okay, so here, what is this gene frequency, students? For that, you will have to understand this. What is gene pool? That is in a population, as I told you. So what do you mean by the term population? So what type of population we are speaking about here? Okay, you know, nowadays we tell population of India, population of America, but what is this population we are speaking about? It is the genetic population. So what is genetic population? Group of similar individuals which are interbreeding among themselves in a particular geographical area. Understand? In one particular area, when you see a group of similar organisms which can interbreed among themselves, okay, so that is called as one population. It is one genetic population, in the sense the genes in them are similar. It is also called as Mendelian population. Why Mendelian population? Because recall, it was Mendel who studied about the genes and the genetic variations. Right? So, in a population which consists of a group of interbreeding individuals which are producing fertile offsprings. So here we can see that they show phenotypic variations based on their genotypes. Right? For example, when you see a gene for eye color, it is present in one particular locus. So generally, if you recall the first chapter there in this unit, that is principles of inheritance and variation, you have studied that one gene, particular gene, consists of two alleles. So here we have taken an example of eye color. It consists of two alleles. So think one is black and the other one is brown. Black is denoted by BL and brown is denoted by BR. Okay. So this point you have to remember. You know alleles. What are alleles? It is nothing but factors of a gene. Right? You had studied about height of the pea plant. So there the height of the pea plant consists of that character was shown by particular gene, and that gene consisted of two alleles. One was capital T, which was dominant allele, and small t was the recessive allele, right? So similarly here we have taken two alleles. Now let's consider a population. Okay, so here this population is showing these variations. See, it is consisting of different organisms, where one is having the allele which shows black color, the other one is having brown eyed, the other one is black eyed here, the other one is black eyed again. So what is the gene frequency for brown eye here? It is 1/4 of the population. Then what will be the gene frequency for black eye gene here, students? It is 3/4 of the population. So did you understand what is gene frequency now? It is the proportion of an allele in a gene pool when you compare it with the other alleles at the same locus. So here on the same locus, you have all these different alleles. So when you compare all this, okay, so what is the proportion of each particular allele? So the brown allele is 1/4, 25% of the population, and the black allele is 3/4, 75% of the population in the gene pool. So understand this now. Oh, the proportion of an allele in a gene pool as compared with the other alleles is called as gene frequency. Okay, did you understand what is gene frequency? So how do you define gene frequency? It is the proportion of an allele in a gene pool. Okay. Now, you may ask me, what is gene pool? So gene pool is nothing but the total number of genes, sum total of genes of all individuals of the interbreeding population. So in one population, the total of all the genes present in that population is said to be gene pool. Okay. So these are the 2 points you have to understand here. Hope you have understood the concept, children. In the next module, we'll continue with the Hardy-Weinberg principle. Okay. Thank you once again.